Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the March 2023 District 115 Board of Education meeting. As I think about the 2022-2023 school year thus far, one of the aspects of our work as a board that makes me most proud is our commitment to keeping our community informed. We, as your Board of Education, your community representatives, your friends, your neighbors, we are here to answer your questions. So I hope you will reach out to us when you have them.
I'd like to share a little bit on, and as you all hopefully know, the board unanimously in December supported to put the referendum on the ballot for April. So why is that? I was, as John and Dave and Sally, voted in to the board almost 2 years ago. And at that time, we knew that we had to take a hard look at the infrastructure of the Lake Forest High School because the master facility plan, which was under development up to late 18 and early 20, was put on hold because of COVID for all the right reasons. And as Jenny alluded, this board had very little to do with decisions of many boards ago on not going to other financing systems. So we just had to look objectively on what the situation is, and I certainly didn't come in with a preconceived notion that we need to put $100 million on a referendum. But when we started to, and I can attest to that this board has exercised extreme diligence to understand what the issues are and what the possible solutions are. And when we started to visit the building, and I have two children who recently, the one is a senior right now, and the other one is just left 2 years ago. When I hear the stories of leaking roofs, non-closing windows, teachers blocking vents because it's either too cold or too hot, or bringing in electrical fans to keep the classroom warm. When I visited the science labs and thought I had suddenly gone a time warp backwards into 45 years ago when I went to school, it became pretty obvious in understanding some of the infrastructure issues with end of life, adding on fixes over fixes, Band-Aids over Band-Aids for the past 15 years or 10 years. It became pretty obvious that we needed to do something very different. And therefore, we landed at this ask to the community to support this board, which you voted for, to make the right decisions after careful evaluation. And so that's how we arrived here. It's not taken lightly. I'm a homeowner here as well as you are, so I don't necessarily need to spend more money on taxes. But given the importance of the high school for the value of the community, the value these properties have for all of us through a functioning high school, I can say with wholeheartedly that this is the best way forward. And as Dr. Montgomery alluded, the alternatives are far worse and would have significant consequences because it's not an option to just do nothing. Because the roof will fail, the HVACs will fail. We have security and safety issues today. So we will have to find the money somewhere. If we don't get it through the referendum, it will have consequences on all those things, as Dr. Montgomery pointed out. And I wholeheartedly, again, can say that after looking at it very carefully and very diligently, is not the right option. So that I just wanted to make that clear to you here in the room and the community at large, that this decision to ask for $105 million was not taken lightly. Thank you.
I think it's important to note, along with Jenny's comments about the process that the board's gone through and the limited options that we have to address these needs. It's critical for the community to know these are needs, not wants. It's critical for the community to know that this work is going to have to be done. It would change the character of the school meaningfully going forward if we needed to reduce our operating budget by anything close to the amount of money that we would need to spend on building maintenance. There are real reasons that you don't establish a rainy day fund. You don't want to pool taxpayer resources into an account that sits there doing nothing when you don't need to spend the money. We need to spend the money. We need to spend it now. If anything, we should have gone forward in 2020 when COVID hit. We chose not to. We thought it was the fiscally prudent thing to do at the time. But we need to move forward with this referendum. We need the community's support. So again, I think these costs are going to be in front of our school in the near future, and we need to pay for it today. So Matt, I appreciate the work that you've done. I appreciate the work that Dan Mortenson's done. I think he's extraordinary at his job. So I feel very good about the ask to the community today. I wish it were a fraction of the amount that it is, but the reality of fixing a beautiful 88-year-old building is that it's expensive.
I've had the opportunity to go to the two forums that were held at the high school where Dr. Montgomery, where President Zinser, with pretty much everybody sitting at the table over there, was available to speak to our community. And those are my favorite kinds of events in the whole world because it's the best of Lake Forest. And it's the best of Lake Forest because people come with a lot of tough questions. They come with a lot of helpful ideas and suggestions. And I always walk away with a different point of view after having heard what I think of as positive, collaborative, not always easy conversations. You have the opportunity to watch the videos from those sessions, the most recent of which was last night. And I hope that you will, because there was a moment in the first session that I got to watch, and there were moments last night that helped me refine my thinking, but walk away still thinking, yeah, I'm glad that I voted to put the referendum on the ballot, and I think that the community has put us through our paces. So the less exciting one is that last night there were a lot of hard, deep, thoughtful questions from a lot of folks who are obviously subject matter experts. Questions about lending, questions about private financing, questions about interest rates. And the thing that was fascinating for me was that every single question they asked, there was somebody sitting up there who had thought about that, who had a reasoned answer, and it held. Maybe it's because I'm used to practicing law and that's what we do is we kick at things, but at the end, it still held water. And there was no excess in what was being asked for. There was nothing where somebody on the panel sat back and said, oh, we never really thought about that before. It showed a deep level of thought, commitment, expertise, transparency, and confidence in what has been presented. So that was moving for me. But the more that I think is more emotionally satisfying or impactful is in the first session you guys had at the high school, a parent came up and asked questions about ADA accessibility. And the school has done everything that it can to meet the need and the desire to be the least inclusive, least restrictive environment for folks who have any kind of special needs accommodations that they needed. There was a picture that was shown, the fellow who's the architect showed, of our current science labs, and showed that most of it is wooden furniture that is actually bolted to the floor, and it accommodates a kid who's in a wheelchair. The kid may not be sitting with the other kids, and the kid is going to find a way to be in that classroom. It is the least restrictive given the boundaries. But then they flash to, this is what the classroom would look like. This is what the science lab would look like. Let us show you how it's done at some of the other schools. It was entirely different. Every table went up and down. The tables could move around. And so you saw this very organic way where a group of kids could go from being lectured at to facing each other. And the kid in the wheelchair, it didn't even register. It wasn't that they had to be accommodated. It was that it didn't have to be thought about. And the parent sort of had that, oh my gosh, moment of that distinction. And I thought that's really what we want, right, in every aspect of what we're doing. And that really touched me. So again, I hope that you'll have the opportunity to watch the videos. Whatever you think is the right answer, I think that this community has put us through our paces, and I so appreciate that.
Well, I'll try not to be redundant. There's been a lot of comments so far that have gone through much of this, but similar to Marcus's point, new to the board 2 years ago, and when this topic came up, I was a little confused about it, which probably some of you are as well or were, and the concept of doing the referendum was just new to me. And what I didn't realize, as Jenny and Marcus have said, is that these are based on decisions that were made years ago. They were made back in 2006, and they were made by the community. The community said, we don't want to, as Dewey said even, we don't want the school to hang on to your money for large capital improvements. Our team does a great job of maintaining. We have a budget for maintaining our equipment to the extent we can, but at some time, think about your furnace, your water heater, your roofing. At some point, maintenance just runs out and you have to replace things. And so that's where the community had said, listen, for those big capital investments for replacing things, we want to be part of that. And so that was the piece that I didn't know about, and now we're at that point. We've gotten to the end of useful life, if not extended well beyond the useful life of many of the items within our school, and in addition have gone way beyond the level of quality within the classrooms with furniture and technology and labs. And so to keep our school running, like keeping your house running when your furnace dies or your water heater dies, we need to keep the school up and running and keep it up to date for our students. They deserve this. And so this is something that was planned for years ago. I hope we can go to a different model at some point and potentially consider the DSEB, but for now, this is what we need to do for our students.
I will echo what everyone has said and not repeat it, but I think it bears saying that you need to be comfortable that we didn't just land on 105 million because it was a cool number. This board spent a great deal of time and effort going line by line through the contracts with the general contractors and the architect, looking at the cost of everything from small pieces of furniture to HVAC systems. And I'm very comfortable in stating that there is no fluff. This is a needs-based referendum. And having had kids that went through this high school and benefited hugely by going to a high school that offered what this high school could offer, as a school board member, I would be very uncomfortable sitting here and seeing anything like the potential changes that could occur if we don't fix this building for the future happen to any of our students.
Since everybody gets to talk, I guess I get to talk. I'll be brief because I'm going to cover most of this in the finance and ops summary we had back in February 8th. So I will leave it to that, echo my colleagues, but I'll cover some other additional things that'll highlight what I've seen and what our committee is seeing within this.